You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk. Number 573.
Hello and welcome back to the Outdoors Station and the final part of this mini 5-part series recorded at the big UK outdoor trade show in the early part of 2024. Now I know it's been different to sort of trip reports or trip interviews, but I hope you've learned a bit about your favourite brands and found out some background, and now are more informed about the forthcoming changes in some outdoor gear manufacturing that's coming our way. You'll also be more up to date about sustainability, repurposing and repairing gear, which most brands are now offering. Which means, of course, next time you're on the hill with your buddies, you'll be the font of all knowledge. How does he know so much? He listens to the Outdoors Station. I do hope you've followed up the links and discount codes that I've mentioned from the feedback. I know many of you already have, so some of the brands tell me. It does give the small brands a big boost to reach new customers, plus it makes the Outdoors Station look good too. So do follow those up. They are in the show notes and some of them are time limited. Now, although I am recording interviews ready to edit for future releases, I will warn you that it might be a couple of weeks before anything is launched. This series has taken a lot of time to edit and compile, and Rose has been very patient. Like most married couples, there is, of course, an invisible list. The boss of the house is always adding to, which we, of course, can't see, although we are told on a regular basis of its existence and where we are on that list. Now, I promised Rose that as soon as I've finished this podcast to get stuck into said list, to take the tension out of the situation and get myself back in the good books, hence the reason for the gap before the next release. I'll leave you to read into that what you will. Anyway, back to this show. Let's kick off with Big Agnes and International Sales Manager Fred Fendree. To be fair to him, the press representative wasn't available, but he did his best to answer my questions.
The main change is the fabrics for the tents, because of the PFAS-free situation. For the backpacking, we have an ultra-light version for next year, for the S25. For the sleeping pads, we have a new version with more durability. And for the sleeping bags, we have also some new products which are more light than the ones before.
And are they all reflecting the PFAS situation?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yep.
Is Big Agnes a European company or an American company?
It's an American company based in Steamboat Springs in Colorado. So there's the headquarters, and we have a small office in Amsterdam for the European market.
Okay. So as I understand it then, the American market's being led at the moment or being pushed to have to consider the PFAS situation. So just tell us a bit about this tent. I'm sure Big Agnes fans will be very interested to know what the new development is. This is the Copper Spur HV Ultralight 2.
Yes, this is our best-selling product for years. And so we have made a new fabric for this one, a new color, to make it more ready for S25.
Okay. Do you want to describe it in a little bit more detail than that for people?
The color is new and the material of the fabrics.
Okay. So it's just the change to take the PFAS situation into account. But the rucksack's new, did you say?
Yes, those are new.
Let's have a look at those then.
Yep. We have 3 different ones. So 26, and this is the 43, and we have a bigger one. And those are the ultra-light version from our current backpacks.
How different is this to the previous one?
This one is more lighter. So we did the normal backpacks, so to say, and this is a lighter version.
Right, okay. But you don't know the final weight?
No, not yet.
Okay. Let's look at the sleeping pads in that case. Can you tell me more information about those? Have you got that information?
We have different versions, and all the technical details are in our workbooks. And
you're based in Amsterdam. How is Europe taking the change to the PFAS situation? Are they aware of it, do you feel?
They are aware of it, but not as urgent as in the United States. But we don't get any questions from our consumers. It's our retailers who ask for how we are dealing with it. So we give them that information, but like I said, it's not that urgent for European customers.
Yeah, I think they'll slowly become aware of it as America change. Yeah. The other thing is the circular economy, as they call it, the cradle to the grave, the repairing, the warranties and that sort of thing. What's your stand on that from Big Agnes?
Well, we replace as much as possible. After we cannot repair it, then we replace it. We do have one pad. It's the circle back pad. And when the consumer has a complaint or they don't want to wear it anymore, they give it back to us and we recycle it for the next one.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So your standard warranty then goes beyond that to give the consumer the best possible service?
Yes, that's correct.
Richard Pine is the CEO of Paramo, and our conversation moved away from specific products to discuss how the business is now wholly owned by the employees and the impact this has made on their lives, the brand, plus how working with recycled materials sometimes dictates the product designs.
So Paramo's 32 years old, with sister company of Nikwax. Same founder, so he came up with Nikwax, the waterproofing for membranes and outdoor clothing back then, and got quite disillusioned with how membrane technology worked. And he is an incredibly stubborn man, so thought of a better way of doing it, came up with the sort of biomimicry of Nikwax analogy, and launched Paramo to really showcase what that technology can do. Successfully ran those businesses as a real trailblazer in the outdoor industry for 40 plus years. 2 years ago, after a long time in planning, kind of wanted to step away from the running of the businesses and hand it on. Went through a lot of different methods of doing that. Key to him was preserving the staff and the values of his brands, and he eventually decided that transitioning to an employee ownership was the correct way to go. So both Nikwax and Paramo were in that journey. At the same time, our manufacturing partner at the time, Michelina, over in Colombia, we brought them on board. We took over management of that. And they're now part of the employee ownership group, which is Nikwax, Paramo and Michelina. And hopefully we're doing a good job of kind of taking Nick's founding values, I suppose, into the next century, the next 30, 40 years, with a different group of people making the decisions.
That must have given the staff in Colombia a massive amount of security.
Yes, so I was fortunate enough to I've been over there a couple of times. I went once with Nick, and went a few months after we'd moved to the EOT. They've always been very proud of what they do. But going over once, they were part of Paramo, this kind of Western company that a lot of them had been manufacturing, stitching garments together for many years. The pride was really clear, and you go down onto the workshop floor, you go and have lunch with them, and the stories they tell and just the enthusiasm that came across in what they were saying about the EOT and that whole process was really fantastic to see.
Well, I'm interested this year in talking about the circular economy, really, and the environmental impact we are making as an industry, and how we can obviously prevent that. And Paramo have had a fantastic story for a very long time, as you say, from year dot. So where do you stand at the moment to give people an update? People perhaps haven't necessarily heard the name Paramo before, or they've been aware of you, but they don't know the backstory as regards the materials and your views on the recycling and ecology of your products.
Sure. So from day one, Nick always used 100% polyester, so a mono-material garment. There was no end-of-life solution, no recycling of kit back then, but he kind of had the vision that if you make things out of as few materials as possible, it will be easier to deal with that at the end of his life. As soon as we kind of start mixing things together, you've got different processes are needed for different things. Polycotton springs to mind. You've got a biological and synthetic material there that require two very, very different recycling technologies. So it makes it very complex to deal with that. So as part of that, we've always designed with longevity in mind. And when we talk about circularity, a lot of people kind of flick to that end of life and what happens with the recycling stream and how it can get turned back into something else. But there's so much we need to be doing as brands before that, and actually the end of life solution really is the last thing that we wanted, the last option we want to take. We want to design garments that last for years, and we want to offer our customers easy repairs so that they can keep that jacket, that backpack, those pair of shoes going. If they don't want them anymore, we want to be able to pass those jackets on to our friends, family, sell them as second-hand, whatever it is. But just because we're finished with them doesn't mean that jacket has hit the end of its useful life. And again, that comes back to designing, jackets that are going to last 20 years. Very different to designing something, we've all heard the term sort of fast fashion. Something that's going to last 2-3 years is clearly not the way to go. And then we kind of made the decision a few years ago. We were at a bit of a turning point as to what to do with virgin polyester. We know that that's not the solution. That is taking raw material from the earth, and that's not. We've got to stop doing that as a race. But I didn't feel like the recycled fabrics that were available to Paramo were quite right for us at the time. So it was pretty much exclusively recycled fabrics with a bottle-fed source. So that's actually taking a product from another industry and turning it into something for our industry. And I truly believe that every sector needs to become more circular. So we should be making packaging out of packaging, cars out of cars, jackets, textiles out of textiles. So we started working with a recycling partner who uses a chemical recycling method sort of 5 years ago. And this is what we do with the jackets that we collect from our customers which aren't viable to repair. We will always prioritise repair and resale above this. But those which we can't sell on, we send off and they actually become feedstock to a chemical recycling process, which mixes post-consumer waste and post-industry waste. So fabrics from the textile mills get mixed with our jackets and actually turned back into a very high quality polyester chip, which we can then and now have made new garments from.
And how does this all work with the actual design aspect of the products? Because there's, I presume, people that are actually designing the garments are also obviously with a view to the outdoor industry, or the outdoor user rather, have got that priority in mind, but surely they have to consider the limitations, if that's the right word, or the characteristics of the material as they're designing. Does that impact them at all when they're putting together a new range?
I think it's a careful balance. So we could design jackets that are very easy to come apart at the end of their life. I think the reality is if we went down that route, we would probably shorten the lifespan of our jackets to something which we wouldn't consider particularly sustainable. There are certain things that we still use a metal zip in all of our jackets. We trialled plastic zips, and actually they don't last very long. And if you're out on the hills using pieces hard, you need the durability. You know, a zip is a brutal way of joining two fabrics anyway. It's like a sort of bike derailleur. It just forces things together. They do wear out. Needs to be easy to replace that zip. You've got to have stock of that zip. But yeah, choosing the materials you use and the components has to be considered at very early on in the design phase. Like you say, our customers, I think they are more aware because they're actually out in nature, up the mountains, enjoying the countryside, and maybe they're just a little bit closer to how that countryside is now changing. And, you know, we are seeing more extremes of temperature. It's getting wetter, hotter, colder. We know we're losing a huge amount of biodiversity in the world, and these are all problems that we've kind of created. So I think yeah, certain industries and certain people, and there is far more awareness of it globally now than there was certainly when I was a child. You know, we were only just starting to talk about kind of greenhouse gases and how bad refrigerators were.
I was listening to a podcast myself on the way up, and it was certainly quite shocking that America actually are leading the way as regards their view in banning PFAS chemicals, with, I believe, REI and Patagonia sort of leading the way, and I understand some states are banning them completely. And yet in the UK, we appear to only have a couple of measurable question marks relating to PFAS in water supply. That doesn't seem to come into any requirements as regards manufacturing. I could be incorrect, but is that correct, as you know?
Certainly no European or UK legislation that I'm aware of that bans the use of them. Paramo have never added PFCs. We're a sister company of Nikwax, who have never used PFCs in their waterproof aftercare products. Back in 2014, we worked with our fabric mills to guarantee the fabrics we have didn't have any PFCs in them, which was our biggest challenge, actually, because it was a very standard thing just to apply PFCs because they offer great stain and oil resistance. So by 2016, we guaranteed that all of our manufacturing was PFC-free. So it's just been something we've been doing for a very long time. There's been stuff out there for a long time by a variety of people about how bad these things are. There is no known half-life to some of these chemicals. They've been found in both poles. They are in the water supplies. I was actually on Alderney in the Channel Islands, tiny little, 12 miles around the edge of it, and they've just discovered PFCs in their water supply. So yeah, it's a big problem, and I think it's a shame that we haven't moved more quickly, especially as an outdoor industry where we have been aware of it. I think it's good what's going on in America because it will force change. The downside of that is once you start forcing change, you're not necessarily giving companies a huge amount of time to make that change. Whereas if we'd started it 10 years ago, maybe we'd be in a different place. But also us as an industry need to be more vocal about this because there are PFCs in a lot of things. Carpets, our Teflon pans, and people just carry on using these things because the awareness about them just isn't where it needs to be. And actually the outdoor industry could really lead the way and go, do you know what, we've all gone PFC free, we don't use them anymore, we have alternate technologies. And actually say to other industries, look, you need to stop using this. We've got to stop adding PFCs to everything and start reducing them.
The Ultra Lone Peak has become the trail shoe of choice for many, offering a wide toe box and a good grip, and so it's suitable for runners and hikers. However, Ultra are always on the ball, building on their success with some new introductions this year, as European manager Andy Norman explains.
So the Lone Peak has been Altra's best-selling shoe for many, many years. Up until about a year ago, we sold a lot more trail shoes than we did road shoes. That's now switching, and we are selling more road than we are trail, so the Lone Peak has been overtaken by one of our road shoes in terms of our best sellers, but it is still one of the very best trail running shoes on the market in terms of sales and performance. It has 25 millimeters of stack height or cushioning, so relatively connected, but it has a stone guard built in there to protect you from running over rocks and firm surfaces.
Certainly for the hikers market, it is definitely the name that gets mentioned in many places. So in your experience, what would you say, has that turned into being the most popular sort of hiking shoe, or one that's most recognised?
Well, it was one of our first ever shoes. A lot of people think it was our first ever shoe that Altra made, but actually our first ever shoe was a road shoe. But this one was one of the very first, and what people always loved about the shoe is the fit. This one's built on our original fit, which is the widest. Now, we only have 3 shoes built on that fit, and it is the widest fit we do, and it just gives you that exceptional comfort with both the foot-shaped toe box, but with the widest fit that we do in our range.
And does it come in half sizes?
It does come in half sizes, everything from a 6 right up to a 14 UK in the men's, and from a 3.5 to a 10 in the women's.
Obviously, being an American-based company, have had to take into account the whole PFAS thing. It's all coming through the whole system. So what's happened with the manufacturing process and the range as such as a result of that?
So on our waterproof models, which we have waterproof versions of the Lone Peak, waterproof versions of the Olympus and the Timp, we've changed all of those. So even if the style was a carry-forward style, we've had to change the product code because everything that's coming through now, it meets those regulations. So the entire range has changed. Coming through as of next month, we'll have nothing that doesn't meet those regulations.
Excellent, good. Okay, well, there's a couple of items here that you wanted to talk about in particular. I believe, should we start with that one?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a couple of exciting launches we have for the fall 24 season, and in fact July, so just in a couple of weeks' time, we're launching our Olympus 6. The Olympus 5 has been in the market for 24 months. It's been one of our best-selling styles. It's our max cushion trail shoe with 33 millimeters of stack height, so 8 millimeters more than the Lone Peak. It's a real chunky shoe with a big Vibram Mega Grip outsole, 4.5 mil lug depth, and a really nice wide stable base. Ultra runners love this shoe, and hikers really love this shoe. Very popular with through hike.
Okay, and it's obviously got a mesh upper there and a fairly protective rand, so fairly good for hiking over rough ground as well, and presumably with the mesh it will obviously breathe and release moisture fairly easily. Yes,
absolutely. Very, very breathable, wide stable base, good 4.5 mil lug depth of the traction, and of course with the Vibram Mega Grip outsole, which will give people the confidence. Also with this nice comfortable Achilles pillow around the heel, makes for a really nice comfortable fit around the heel. All Ultra shoes are compatible with our gaiters, so you'll see this gaiter trap on the heel and on the front there. It's a 2-point gaiter that you can fix onto any Ultra shoe.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about gaiters, because obviously that's the next thing, keeping the crud out of the shoe itself as you're hiking. You have your own range of gaiters?
We do. We range gaiters in 4 colours. They're £22 in the UK, and they're compatible with all of our trail shoes.
And this particular one, which is now a Gore-Tex lined one, so a different marketplace presumably?
Yes, so this actually is our first Gore-Tex running shoe, trail running shoe. So it's the Pt5 Gore-Tex, and it launches in July. So the Pt5, the standard Pt5, launched in March, which replaced the old Pt4s. They've been extremely popular. They're built on our standard last, which is the middle one. We again have the Vibram Mega Grip outsole. 29 millimeters of stack height or cushioning, so sits in between the Lone Peak and the Olympus in terms of the cushioning. And yeah, this one is now a Gore-Tex version of our Pt5, so really pleased that we have a Gore-Tex waterproof version of the Pt5 to offer to the consumers.
Okay, and what are we looking at price point wise for that shoe, that one, and obviously either the old one or the new version of the Lone Peak?
So the Lone Peak is the cheapest of the three, sits at £130, being that it's the lowest stack height. Then we move up to Timp. The standard Timp's £135, but the Gore-Tex version is £155. And then moving up in stack height again to the Max Cushion Olympus 6. This one sits at £155.
Wow. And what's the sort of life cycle of these shoes, and what's your approach or Altra's approach to long-term warranty or shoes that need to move on, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, we offer a warranty on all of our shoes. The lifespan, we would usually say, is 500 to 600 miles, but of course it does depend on the person. It depends on perhaps how they run. Perhaps weight is a factor. Some people wear shoes a lot quicker than other people. I'm very fortunate that I could probably get over 1,000 miles out of my shoes. I wear very evenly and very light on my feet. But yeah, we would say standard 500 to 600 miles, and once they have had their use, we encourage people to recycle them. So what we do with any of our demo shoes, where we have a demo pool that we take to retailers to do events, eventually they go to a company called Jog On, and they go out to Africa to put on people's feet that are perhaps underprivileged.
So that's it, folks. If the Pt5 or the Olympus 6 floats your boat, do check out the ultrarunning.uk or .eu website for more information. Those new releases he was discussing should be hitting the shops right about now. As I mentioned, this is the end of this mini-series, and I will be back soon with more adventure interviews and trip reports. So please stay tuned and keep me on your favourites so it automatically uploads, downloads or sideloads, whatever the case may be, as soon as it's released. Finally, while I was at the show, I asked every person I interviewed for an outdoor top tip. Anything at all to help outdoors fans enjoy life more. And this is their reply. Reducing the chance of blisters, here's Zoe Hewitt, Richard Pine, Chris Davidson and Damon Street.
Okay, I'm going to talk about footwear because I think footwear is absolutely the most important thing when you're out walking, and how important it is to clean your boots. It's something that I absolutely don't like doing, but I have learned that if you don't keep your boots clean, they don't breathe, and then you're more likely to get blisters. So keeping your boots clean is really important.
Footwear is something that's quite passionate to me, actually. I've got very long feet with a very narrow heel and very wide forefoot, and I do actually struggle to find brands that fit my feet. But actually one of the biggest things that changed for me was playing around with how you lace up your walking boots. And there are various hints and tips online. You can have a look and you find which one works for you. But really kind of locking your heel down into the back of the boot kind of revolutionised the amount of time and reduced the amount of compede that I used to have to buy as well. So you can do a huge amount with lacing if you've got a boot that actually fits the shape of your foot. You can really anchor it down. So play around with that.
My outdoor hack to make your boots feel refreshed and new is to replace the footbed regularly. The footbed is probably one of the most overlooked parts of the boot, and the recommendation from Zamberland is to replace it every 6 months if you're walking steadily and regularly at the weekend, because the foam within it will compress and it will lose its springiness and comfort, and it's not an expensive product. It's about $9.99 at retail to replace, and it'll make your boots feel brand new.
So my fun top tip, my number one recommendation for everybody is footbeds. And honestly, if you can get yourself some custom made footbeds, it is the best thing. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're hiking, whether you are doing a marathon, triathlon, whatever you're doing, makes such a difference. My reasoning for this is, if you were a lady now and you went off to the gym or went running, you wouldn't do it without a sports bra. These days, if you're going out anywhere, your feet take all of your weight, they spread in your shoes. If you get decent custom-made footbeds, they support you, and it makes such a difference to your day. And I started wearing them 15, 20 years ago at trade shows, and simply because I had really sore feet from standing around trade shows and I just couldn't bear the following day. It's made such a difference, and I probably have 10 pairs of custom footbeds. I swap them in and out of cycle shoes, run shoes, hike boots, trail approach shoes, everything. So that's my top tip. Wear them. Best part of it.
Abby from Nemo and Annie Norman suggested more active ideas.
And I don't know if you would call it a hack, but I always have a pair of running shoes and a running vest in the boot of my car. I have it all the time because you never know when you're going to be in a place and someone wants to go for a run or a jog or a hike. The running community around me is super vibrant, and it's just such a good way to be with people and get outdoors. So always having that in my car has been game-changing.
With trail running, the more you do, the easier it becomes, both on the legs, because you get your legs used to that, especially the descending can be so hard on the legs if you don't do it often. So the more you do, the better you become. And of course, the more you do, the more you need comfort over a number of miles, everyday comfort. And that's where Altra comes into play with the foot-shaped toe box. It just provides exceptional comfort over long distances every day.
Sam Fernando and Jonas Guito had a sweeter motivation.
Tunnock's tea cakes. It's an iconic Scottish biscuit. I would suggest that's what it's called. So it comes already wrapped in this beautiful kind of like silver and red wrapping. So you can unwrap it, and it's chocolate covered, and it's got kind of like a marshmallowy type filling inside, gooey type filling. And then what you can do is you can shove anything you want in it, banana slices or raspberries or something like that. Wrap it all back up. Put it on top of your campfire. You wait maybe 5 minutes or even less maybe, and you take it out and you've got this ready-made s'mores. It is amazing. It's so good. There's nothing like it. And it's already pre-packaged for you. Awesome.
Bring extra food. It prevents hunger.
Jessica Effort was thinking of her travelling buddy.
I don't know the brand, unfortunately, but it has been a game changer for us. So when we're out in the van, we managed to buy a non-spill dog water bowl. So having dogs coming in and out, every time you move the van or you go over a bump, the water goes absolutely everywhere and it drives you nuts. So we managed to find this grey and black water bowl, and you can literally go anywhere, up, down, everywhere, and it doesn't spill a drop. And the dogs are hydrated. Winner, winner.
Paul Kersons was more gear orientated.
Well, I think it's what we like to say when we talk about sustainable fashion or sustainable clothing. The most sustainable item you can actually have is the one that's already in your closet. So if you have stuff in your closet you're not wearing because it's damaged, just repair it yourself or bring it in. And that's the best thing you can do for the environment, and then you can actually enjoy your garment a little bit longer.
Philippa Clark was heading straight for the beach.
I would say if you go surfing, try to not put your wetsuit on and zip it up when you're at home. Try and do it when you're at the beach. So get it halfway up, and then when you get to the beach, zip it up the rest of the way. Otherwise you get too hot on your way to the beach, especially if you're walking there with your surfboard under your arm.
Matt Haig and Lindsay Morrison were being organised and getting comfortable.
I'm a big fan of using dry sacks for hiking and packing cubes for travel. It just gives you the ability to organise and know exactly where the thing you're looking for is. Like I know this morning, I know which bag my running kit is in, inside my massive 100 litre. Don't ask me why I've brought 100 litre for a 3-day show, but I then also know when I'm out on the hike, I know where my waterproof jacket is, or I know where my down jacket is when the weather turns.
I am going to cheat slightly and associate it with Thermarest. A lot of people who are heading out camping, especially those who are doing it for the first time, understand mattress as just a single product that they have to purchase. In my mind, a mattress should always include a closed cell foam pad underneath, which is the Thermarest Deadlight. There's plenty on the market as well. That instantly boosts the temperature of any mattress that you have. It can be quite easily strapped to the back of a backpack. You see plenty of Z-Lights out there when you're in the wild. And that instantly gives you a much better sleep surface, a much warmer sleep surface, at barely any cost.
But finally, the one and only Chris Townsend had the best advice of all.
Get out and do it as often as possible. That would be my tip. You know, even if it's only for a short time, but if you've got a spare hour or two to go out for a walk or a cycle ride or whatever, go and do it, you know.
Just go out and do it. And on that note, I'll be back with more podcasts soon. So, until then, take care out there and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear or see more from our extensive free library, please visit theoutdoorsStation.co.uk.